Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to another episode in ArchiX. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about sources of inspiration for architectural design. Actually, we get this question a lot in the beginning of every term, and we're probably a little bit late, but hopefully this will help people out in the future terms. Inspiration is something that's definitely very personal, so these methods are definitely not the correct or the right ways to do it, but if you're stuck, maybe we can give you some ideas. Yeah, so the first and probably the most useful advice that I usually give to others is that you should look into sources of inspiration from another field. So for example, personally, I really enjoy finding architectural inspirations from concept art. Because in concept art, whether that be for movies, comic books, or even games, artists can be really free from all the constraints, whether that be like, gravity, size or scale, material. So in those space, people tend to push the boundary of what design can be. Or I like to find like a collection of really cool ideas from those sources and try to bring them into more concrete reality. So in a way, making them more practical and useful, and that tends to result in a pretty original work. And there's a bit of controversy regarding finding inspirations from sources like Pinterest or Instagram. I'll be addressing that at the end, so make sure to stick around for that. But in the meantime, another really great sources that others have found is that they also find great inspirations from movies. Some people don't find it very applicable, but other people find it really great. In either case, movies are just fun to watch, so if you are a big fan of movies, then it could be a way to kind of cool down and find unexpected inspirations. And on that, one of our writers wrote an article about movies that architects should watch. So if you're interested, you can check that out as well. Link is in the description. Coming back to architectural sources, some people really enjoy finding inspirations from precedents. Studying the works of grandmasters who have already tried many different things and found ideal solutions might be a really great way to kind of base your designs off of. Which isn't to say you should copy it, but it's more like kind of learn the ideas behind them and look into how they might have come up with the idea. So for that, it might be really useful to read their biography or their books or documentaries about their design processes instead of looking at their work on their own. Having that kind of context will help you build your career as a better designer. And also, having these kind of precedents can be a really good way to defend your designs. And on that, our creator Dami has created an excellent video about presenting precedents. I strongly recommend you check that out. I'll link it in the card on the top left corner. Top right corner? Top right corner. Next up on the list, we were gonna say traveling, but in this time and age, traveling is definitely not recommended. So on that, maybe we'll say exploring. Because inspirations are not limited to exotic places abroad. You can find plenty of inspirations from your local places. From my personal experience, when I talk to other expats who kind of come to my hometown, they go to all these places that I've never even heard about, or places that I've heard about, but I never end up going because I think it's like really close. So you'll be surprised to see how many attractions are around your hometown. So I strongly recommend you kind of like check them out. And if you're coming back from studying abroad, you'll find that with this newfound perspective on architecture, you'll start seeing your familiar places very differently. You start noticing things and little details that you've never noticed before you studied architecture. So this can be a really great alternative to traveling to find inspiration. So take out your camera, take out your notebooks, and go out there and just walk around in the streets and jot down things that you think are interesting, and maybe that'll help you in your future projects. And for those who are watching after the pandemic, there are some cities that we think are really interesting, and we wrote a little blog post about that, so I think you should, if you're interested, you can check them out as well. The link is in the description. Another great sources of inspiration that is no longer viable but will be viable in the distant future is walking around in the studio. All the previous methodologies we've talked about so far might feel a little bit irrelevant to your current project. Maybe the scale is different, maybe the site is totally different, cultural context could be totally different. But when you're studying in a studio with another group of students, you'll be given the same brief, and that allows you to kind of look into like how other people might approach the same problem. This kind of gives you a broader perspective into what others might be going through. Even the fact that there are many different solutions to the same problem can be an essential part of becoming a professional architect. Another example is that you probably had an experience where your professor might just pick up a scrap from like a desk next to yours, or even from the floor, and use that to kind of like model another story for your project. So inspirations are all around you. It's just a matter of perspective. And something as simple as like just putting things upside down can be opening a whole new possibilities. So in the end, maybe it is really all about perspectives. One thing I meant to address from the beginning was the implications behind finding inspirations from Pinterest and Instagram. I know some students or professors are highly against this, but I think as long as you use it in a healthy way, I think those can be really powerful tools. And again, this is pretty personal, so this might work for some people, it may not. And at the same time, we definitely don't recommend you directly copying other people's work. Getting inspirations from other work is very different from copying. And this is why I like to stay away from architectural sources when I browse these social media. I think what I actually recommend you is to kind of like follow your hobbies or other interest areas, and one day something will pop up that becomes relevant to your project, such as concept art, movie, and any sort of design field can be relevant for architecture. And social media like Pinterest will lead you into unexpected sources that you haven't even thought about searching, because they give you like random recommendations on the side that's like tangentially related. So that can be a really interesting way to find some serendipitous inspirations, unexpected moments that you may not have found. So on that note, those are really good sources of inspirations. And by the way, if you want to get more life hacks like these, I think you should consider subscribing to our channel, because it'll allow you to see a regular feed of extremely useful tips and tricks from our community. And last but not least, inspiration is a fluid thing. It's not something that comes to you because you're searching for it. Sometimes you have to kind of let the process guide itself. And that means just going through many iterations. And when something feels right or wrong, in either case, I strongly recommend you just like kind of jump into the rabbit hole and see where it takes you, at least for as long as your time allows. In the beginning of every project, coming up with a design concept is the most difficult part. And among all these possibilities, how do you know what's the right one? The answer is you have to try as many as possible, because otherwise it will be hard to find out. So yeah, on that note, I'll just say go out there, try different things out, and gather as much sources as possible in the beginning, and find out what's relevant and synthesize it. And again, like, design process is very personal, so take this with a grain of salt. So yeah, I'm kind of curious to hear how you like to design. If you have any interesting ways to design, then leave it in the comments. I would love to hear them. If you found this video helpful at all in unblocking your design process, then give us a like. And if you want to see more videos like this in the future, I think subscribing will be a good solution. Stay productive, work less, and design more with ArchiHacks.